There's a famous Meiser with Rabbi Salanter, and when he was trying to begin the Musar movement, he used to go around from town to town to give big drushes in the main shuls so that people would understand that learning Musar was not just working on yourself, but you could be someone that was learning and holding stark in Torah as well, because people had a lot of times on the Musar movement. So what he would do was he would go to a big shul and he would put up a list of like 50 different sources that he was going to work on in his drasha, and he would go through one after the other, and he would have a magnificent, amazing, incredible shiur that would dazzle and astound everyone that was listening. And then they would see what a Talmid Chacham, Rabbi Salanter, was, that would make them realize that if he's the one that's teaching Musar and telling people to work on themselves, then he must know what he's talking about. He once came to a shul, and as he got up onto the podium to give the drasha, they handed him the list of all of the Mayim Mekaymas, of all the sources that he was going to use for that night. Now, he was the one that made the list. Well, there were some wise guys in this particular town. They wanted to make him fail in his presentation. So they changed the list and they put down 50 different sources that they thought had nothing to do with another. And they put the paper in front of Rabbi Salanter, and he looked at the paper and he realized what happened. He turned white for a moment. He paused for about maybe 30 seconds. And then he ended up giving the most amazing drasha. He went through each one of these sources that he never saw before. I mean, not that he put them together that night. And he gave an outstanding pilpul of Torah that the world, that they had never heard before. So the people that were the wise guys, they thought that they caught him and they didn't catch him. But everybody wanted to know if Rabbi Salanter was able to give such an amazing shiur on the spot like that, why did he turn white? And why did he pause for about 30 seconds before he gave over the shiur? So somebody asked one of his Talmidim, I think it was of Naphtali of Amsterdam that was there, why is it that your Rebbe turned white? He was able to do it. What did he turn white for? He said, you don't understand why he turned white. Rabbi Salanter looked at the paper and he understood right away that people were trying to play a trick on him. He understood that. Not why he turned white. He saw all the sources, and right away in his computer mind, he knew exactly how he was going to give the shiur. He'll be able to give everything. Nothing's going to throw him off. So why did he turn white and why did he pause? Because he knew when they're going to find out that he invented the shiur on the spot in such a genius way, he was afraid of showing off his ingenious mind and the cover, the honor he was going to get. But then he said to himself, but for the covet of Musar, for the honor of the Musar movement, he has no choice, he has to do it. When I spoke to Reina about what the topic of the shiur was, for some reason I heard one thing in my ear. And tonight as I was sitting in my car just going through my thoughts of what I wanted to speak about, I decided to look at the beautiful flyer that was made. And I realized what I heard and what's printed on the flyer are two different things. I'm not Rabbi Salanter. I cannot invent shiurim on the spot like that. I hope that what I will say is somewhere along the lines of what we had in mind to speak about tonight. And I actually hope that it will be a segula, that we don't have to get together anymore for these beautiful alumni shiurim where you're all coming without your chassan. I hope that the message that we'll learn about tonight is something that will be a segula for each and every one of you, that will bring you one step closer to the right one, so that you can go off to Lakewood or to Eretz Yisrael or to, say, Baltimore, because that's where I come from. You should go to Baltimore. But anyway, that you'll go to all these wonderful places together with your husbands where you'd like to be. It's around the corner. You have to know that. You have to believe that every single day. And there are things that we have to work on to make ourselves zeicher to be the person that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bench and bless with the biggest bracha that you're looking for in your life. So this is what I heard when I spoke to Reina on the phone. And I hope that in Yetz Hashem will cover enough of the topics on the beautiful and the colorful flyer so that it would be the shir that you came for. When we look in the Chumash, especially in last week's Parsha, and we see that Eliezer Eved Avram was looking for a wife for his servant Yitzchak, there's only one thing that he was looking for in a woman. It happens to be, the Torah tells us, he was Mariyov, she was beautiful, she had so many milas, but there's only one Nakuda, there's one thing that he's looking for. And that is, he's testing this young little lady over here, Rivki Meinu. Is she a woman that is flowing with the midah of Chesed? Is she a person whose whole life, her whole thought, like the Chavetz Chaim writes, it doesn't say in the pasuk that you have to do Chesed. It says you have to be someone who's an avas Chesed. You're someone who loves Chesed. When you love something, nothing will ever get in the way of you accomplishing what you want to do. If you like Chesed, if Chesed is something that you'll do, so okay. When it's easy, when it's convenient, when you have time, when you're in the mood, you'll do Chesed. But if you're not in the mood, and you don't have the time, and you're busy, and you're grumpy, and you have a lot of other things going on, and someone asks you for a Chesed, chances are you're not going to run to do the Chesed. Says the Chavetz Chaim in the Sefer Avas Chesed, the reason that the Navi says you have to love Chesed is because it's the only way that you're going to guarantee and ensure you'll always be running to do Chesed, even when you're not in the mood to do such a thing. Eliezer gave a test to this young woman, Rivki Imenu, and he wanted to see, is she a balas Chesed? That means that she's someone that is surging and thriving with Chesed inside of her. She's looking for ways to do and to do and to do and to do and to do. If she is, she's the wife for Yitzchak. Why is that the test? What about Yiras Shamayim? How about Amunah? How about Simchas Achayim? How about being Mesudar? She's organized. Imagine a wife is a slobby person. The house not going to look, this house, this is the house of neat people over here. Look how, even the cookies that look like it could be a mess, even the cookies are neat. That's a midah tova that a person has to have to run a house in the right way. If a mother doesn't have Yiras Shamayim, she doesn't have a munah, she doesn't have a sensitivity to ruchnius, how's she going to be a good wife, a good mother, run a house in the right way? Chesed is the only midah that we're going to test the mother of Klal Yisrael with. Why is Chesed? That's the only one. Rav Dessler has in Michtam Eliyahu, has many different maimarim, many different messages and things that he worked on for years and years and years and years of his life that he wanted to present to Klal Yisrael. One of his most famous pieces that he has in the first chelik is what is called the Kuntras HaChesed. It's called his theses on Chesed. And he writes over here the following idea. There's two types of people in this world. One is called a noisein. That is someone that is giving. That is someone that is looking at the face or the body language of another person and always is in tune with them and knows what they need and will never stop themselves from giving to that person in the right way. You're a noisein. You're a giver. You're balas chesed. You care about others. You're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking, what can I do for this person over here? There's another person in the world who's called a noitel, is a taker, is someone who in their life, they're always thinking, what could I get? What could I receive? What is going to make my life better? What do I need right now in my life to be a happier person? And when I'm interacting with other people, always in the back of my mind is, what could I get and take from this person that I'm dealing with right now. Says Rav Dessler, one person is a Tzelem Elokim, and the other is the opposite of Tzelem Elokim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the greatest Baal Chesed in the entire universe. He made a world that's Kula Chesed. If you think about this amazing world that Hashem made, how everything runs and flows perfectly, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed us with everything that we need. To take one breath of life is enough to sing and dance all day long. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's world is a world of Kula Chesed. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is the Makor. He's the source of all Chesed. And when he gave us a Tzelem Elokim, he gave us a piece of himself that we're in his image. The only way that we can actualize the Tzelem Elokim inside of ourselves is if we pursue the Midah of Chesed. But someone who's a noitel, someone who takes, and someone who thinks, what can I get? And someone who thinks, what do I need? Then they have the Tzelem Elokim inside of them. But they don't even know the treasure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given. And they miss the boat on what life is really all about. Eliezer went to find a wife. Yitzchak is a man that's going to build Klal Yisrael. In order to build Klal Yisrael, it has to be done with godliness. It has to be done in a way that is going to bring the Shekhinah into your actions. The only way that you can bring the Shekhinah into your life is when you are actualizing the koyach of the Tzelem Elokim that's inside of you. How does a person show their Tzelem Elokim? You act like Elokim himself. And that is Chesed. And the only way that a person brings out the truth of who their godliness is by becoming a person that is linked into the world of Kulay Chesed. Olam Chesed Yiboneh. Yeah, Hashem built a world with Chesed. Chazal tell us every single person is an Olam Katan. We are a microcosm of the entire world. You know how you're going to develop yourself. You know how you're going to build yourself. You know how you're going to make yourself great in this world. Make yourself worthy of all those brachas that you want to come upon you. Olam Chesed Yibani. You build your world, yourself, with the midah of Chesed. And the more and the more and the more that you give, the more that you think about others, the greater are you going to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when Hashem sees a person like him, he flows the Shekhinah down. Just, I think last week, was the Yortzeit of Rav Shach, Zeichet Tzadik Livracha. It could be that it's close to 26, 27 years, his Yortzeit. Towards the end of his life, he lived till, according to some numbers, he was 112 years old and he's nifter, some he was 105 years old. Whatever it was, he was quite old in years. He had a Talmid who never had children. And finally, after something like 10 or 15 years of davening and begging and pleading HaKadosh Baruch Hu for children, he was zeichet to twin boys. And he came to Rav Shach to tell Rav Shach the great news. Rebbe, I had boys, I had children, finally, twin boys. And he wanted to ask Rav Shach to be the sandik by the bris. Now you have two boys. So who's going to be the sandik, one by one and one by the other? So there, the grandfather was coming in from Australia, and the husband and the wife decided that her father was going to be the sandik by one of the boys. And he came to Rav Shach that he should be the sandik by the other boy. So he comes to Rav Shach, he shares the Mazel Tov, And Rav Shach very uncharacteristically turns to this man and he says, you want me to be the tzaddik by one of the boys? Or by both of them? So he said, wow, I mean, really my father is coming in from Australia, it's a big trip and it's a big trek, so we thought to be mechabed with one and be mechabed or shiva the other one. So Rav Shach looks at the Talmud and he says the following, it's all or nothing. Either I'm the sandek by both of the boys, or I'm not the sandek by either of the boys. Now you're probably all trying to figure out, why was Rav Shach say such a thing? I thought I understood, I was wrong. This young man just had a baby, twins, he's so excited, and his Rebbe is telling him it's all or nothing? What about his father, what's going to be? And he said, I don't know, I have to speak to my wife. And he walks out very flustered. He goes to his wife. He tells her the whole interaction with her and him and Rav Shach. And his wife was a smart lady, as most Neshei Chayil are. And she said, did you ask Rav Shach why he said that? So he said, no. He said, well, go back and ask Rav Shach. Why would he say such a thing? So he runs back to Rav Shach's house. And he comes back inside and he says, Rebbe, I just want to understand, why do you want to be the tzaddik only by both or by none? And he says, very simple. He said, I don't have much longer in this world. Soon I'm going to disappear. In 7 years' time, these two boys are going to be in Cheder, and they're going to be sitting on the schoolyard, and everyone's going to be schmoozing amongst themselves about who was the sandek by their bris. And I won't be around the world anymore. So one son is going to say, you know, it's the sandek by my bris? Rav Shach, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Ooh, all the boys say, wow, Rav Shach, the great Rosh Hashiva Panovich, the God of the was your sandek? Wow. Then they're going to turn to his brother. And they're going to say, and who was your sandek? He's going to say, my Zaidi from Australia. Oh, okay. Said Rav Shach, I cannot be responsible to cause pain to one of your sons 7 years down the road when I was sandek only by one and not the other. If you want me to be the sandek, it's by both or it's by none. That's what happens in the city.
It's fireworks.
Thanksgiving fireworks. Wow. You understand the world of a Gadol Ador. The man has the world of Klal Yisrael on his shoulders. He's maybe, who knows, 95, 99 years old at this time. And what is the Gadol Ador who grew his whole life was serving Klal Yisrael and taking care of others? He's worried that in 7 years, maybe there's going to be a young boy who's sitting on a playground and is going to get embarrassed because his sandek was the Zayda and not Rav Shach. When a person lives a life of chesed, when a person lives a life of thinking about other people, and that's all that's on their mind, we never think about ourselves, what we need. We think about how we can make another person's life better. Also, recent Yortzeit of Dovid Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the great son of Moshe Feinstein. He grew up in his father's sail, in the shadow of his father. His father was from the biggest Balei Midos in the entire world. You have story after story after story about the Midos of Moshe Feinstein. He was on a different level altogether with the world of Midos that he lived in. And all of the stories are always a sensitivity to other people. His son Reb Dovid learned from his father, and he was also on such a madrega. And there's a beautiful story that took place towards the end of the life with him and his Rebbetzin. They had planned a trip to Eretz Yisrael. And it was a very big deal for them. He never got away to leave his yeshiva MTJ, to leave Klal Yisrael in America that was on his shoulders. The biggest and hardest halachic shaylas, life and death, were coming on to his door every single day. But you know, they're married for so many years. And they were looking forward to this trip. They're going to go to Eretz Yisrael for like 1 week. It'll be the honeymoon that they never had when they were like 80 years old. What a beautiful idea. And the goal of this trip was they're going to spend all their time together. Everything they do, everywhere they go, every gadol they see, every event that they go to, every simcha that they attend, every tefillah that they go to pray, they're always going to be together. Dovid, Feinstein, and his wife, the Rebbetzin. Now the Rebbetzin was already an older lady at this time. She had a walker. And so wherever they went, she was with her walker. One day on their journeys was going to be what they called the Yom HaTfilah, the day of prayer. What did that mean, the day of Tefillah? You remember from your days in seminary? It's not so long ago. Remember going to the Chesed early in the morning, hear the birds chirping, that air that's so crisp and clear in Yerushalayim. You come down to the Chesed and you pour out your heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So they were going to start their morning at the Chesed. And after the Chesed, they're going to go to the cave of I'm sure you all went there. I'm sure you all cried copious tears while you were standing by her caver, davening for yourself, for your siblings, for your family, for people that you knew that needed Yeshua. And then after that, they were going to head to Maras HaMachpelah. I don't know if Beis Yaakov girls are brave enough to go to Maras HaMachpelah while you were there, but if you were, you went and you davened by the Kvarim of Avram and Sari Meinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov. That was going to be their day. Koisel, Kever Rachel, Maras HaMachpelah. They go first thing in the morning to the Koisel, and the Rebbetzin goes to the women's side, he goes to the men's side, and they daven like 1 hour straight. Now, Dovid Feinstein was a big davener. He used to have lists of cholim and people that needed Yeshuas. So he brought all of his lists, and he was davening and pouring out his heart to the Rebbeinu by the Koisel. Wow. What an inspiration. They walk back to the car and they say, Kever Rachel. And they head off to Kever Rachel. And they go into Kever Rachel also. You could all imagine in your mind how it looks. She goes to the women's side, he goes to the men's side, and they're pouring out their hearts, crying, davening for everybody. They have the list of people for cholim and people that need children and people that need shidduchim and Yeshuas, you name it. And it was elevating and inspiring, and they were so connected. They come back to the car and they're supposed to go to Maras HaMachpelah. As they get to the car, Dovid Feinstein turns to the driver and he says, changed my mind. We're not going to Maras HaMachpelah. Just take us back to our hotel where we're staying. So the Rebbe says, Dovid, what do you mean? This is Yom HaTfilah today. This is the day of our prayers. Kosel we did, Kever we did. Now it's time for Maras HaMachpelah. He said, my dear Rebbetzin, don't understand. The deal with our trip is wherever we go together. You know that at Maras HaMachpelah, the only way in is you have to go up a very long staircase. You're on a walker. You won't be able to go up the staircase. So if you can't go into Maras HaMachpelah, I'm not going into Maras HaMachpelah. She said, Reb Dovid, don't be silly. I'll stand by the foot of the staircase, right by the wall of the Maras HaMachpelah. I'll daven from the outside, you'll daven from the inside. Our tefillahs will meet together somewhere in Shemayim, and it'll be like we're together. And he said, Rebbe, you don't understand. We came here to be together. And if you're not going in, that popcorn or fireworks? If you're not going in, I'm not going in. And he turned to the driver and he said, please, take us back to our hotel. And they did not go to Maras HaMachpelah. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are you a noisein? Are you a giver? Or are you a taker? Do you think more about yourself? Or do you think more about other people? The secret in marriage, the secret to being a wife, the secret to being a mother, the secret to being someone who's going to run a house in a way that it needs to be run is, you think 90% of the time about somebody else, and a little bit you think about yourself. When the Torah records the creation of man and woman, it has two separate times that it speaks about it. One is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bara oisam, He created them, and then later on when the Torah recounts creation of Adam and Chava, it says that He separated the woman, we call it the rib, but the side is really what it is, and He made her an ezer kenegdai. So which one is it? Was He bara oisam? Did He create them? Or did He make her into an ezer kenegdai, a helpmate that is opposite Adam Arishon? And the Ramban explains on that pasuk based on the Gemara that in the original creation of a husband and a wife, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put them together back to back. And He made it that they would have been able to live happily ever after. They would have taken care of everything. They would have lived, they would have taken care of each other, kind of. They would have had families and children. They would have built their house. They would have done it all. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, no. That's not what life is all about. Life is not about being back to back and just looking at yourself in the mirror. Life is about being an ezer kenegdai. You are opposite each other, so you're always looking at somebody else. It's not mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all. It's about looking at the face and the person that's in front of you and understanding, what does that person need? And through them, I will become a much better person. Because when I'm giving, and when I'm caring, and when I'm thinking all the time about somebody else, so then I take the focus off of my own silly little wants and my desires and my hevel havalim of my life, and I lift myself up to think about you, now I'm becoming like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does Hashem need us? And we're a headache to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does Hashem need all of our complaints, all of our whining, all of our cries, all of our disappointments? Does He need us? He doesn't need us. But He wants us, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Makor Chesed. And the only way you can be a person or a being of Chesed is if you're giving and giving and giving and giving. Every person in your life is an opportunity to give to another person. Rav Chaim Volozhiner, his children bring down in the Hakdama, the beginning of his Sefer, Nefesh HaChaim, our father was so much a man of Klal Yisrael. He cared so much about every Yid. He used to muster us out all the time and say that you're not doing enough for another Jew. And he said, Loi la'atzmai nivra, you were not created for yourself. Ela la'hoila la'achrini. You're in this world for others. You're in this world for another person's life. You're going to get what you need. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't forget about you. But when Hashem sees you taking care of other people, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of you. Another yortzeit that is coming up is this week of Kalman Kron Zatzal, the brother of a Pesach Kron. I remember many years ago, we had a Shabbaton in our shul with Rav Pesach Kron, and my boys were very into his brother. His brother had shmuzim that were like fire, mamish, like fire. Very different than Rabbi Pesach Kron. And Rav Pesach told my kids, he says, if you want to see a real rabbi, you have to see my brother of Kalman. He was an Ish Elokim. His whole life was avodas Hashem, being mechazik people. He's a very, very sensitive person. When he would see Meshulachim in the city of Lakewood in the wintertime, it would break his heart that they were walking around cold and freezing. He used to give the clothes off of his own back. Here's my gloves, take my gloves. You don't have a jacket, take my jacket. He would give them his jacket. You don't have boots, he would give them his boots. His wife said, Kalman, you're giving away all your clothes, you can't keep doing this. So he got himself, he went to the store, he bought a basket full of gloves, a basket full of scarves, and a basket full of earmuffs, maybe even some galoshes and shoes and jackets. And when he would see a Meshulach walking through the streets of Lakewood that didn't have what they needed to go against the weather, he would reach into his closet, here's some gloves. Your ears look cold, here's some earmuffs. Your feet look wet, here's some boots. You look very cold, here's a coat. He was always caring about others. He was once had in his house some construction that was being done. And there was a Chiloni Israeli construction worker in his house. I thought they only existed in Los Angeles, but apparently they're also in Lakewood. And as he's doing the work, and Rav Kalman Kron is coming along and schmoozing with a little bit, he sees this guy's like very agitated and angry. And suddenly the guy turns on Rav Kalman Kron and says, you know what the problem with you people is? Oh, what's the problem? He says, you never went to the army. Our boys, they go to the army, to the IDF, they fight in the wars, they get killed, they get damaged, they get hurt, they get injured. And you, all of you, Charedim, you sit and you learn in the Beit Midrash, and you don't go out to war, and you sleep comfortably at night, and you don't do anything for the land of Israel. That's your problem. Rav Kalman Kron said, did you fight in the wars? He said, yes, of course, Betach. He said, did you ever lose somebody that was close to you? And he said, yes. And he said, who? He said, my brother. My brother was killed in battle. He said, what is your brother's name? He said, Yonatan. Yonatan what? Yonatan Azar. He said, do you know when your brother's yortzeit is? So he says, no. You don't know when your brother's yortzeit is? No. He said, come, follow me. He takes him down into his basement. And in his basement are tables, and on the tables there are boxes of index cards, thousands of index cards. And he looks at this Israeli man, he says, do you know what these cards are? These are the names of every soldier in the Israeli army who has been killed in battle since the very first war that was fought. It's their name and their yortzeit. And I want you to know that on their yortzeit, I say Kaddish and learn Mishnayos, Torah for each and every one who has a yortzeit. Because I always thought to myself, what if someone doesn't know from the family when their yortzeit is? What if someone knows but they're not going to go to the shul to say Kaddish? What if they know when the yortzeit is but they're not so religious and they won't learn Torah for his neshama? What if? So many, many, many years ago I began collecting all the names, and I have special connections in the government. I have the name of every single soldier that was killed in battle. Tell me again, what was your brother's name? The boy says, Yonatan Azar. And he goes over to his alphabetical boxes and he opens it up and he looks through. Here. Chaf Gimel Kislev is your brother's yortzeit. I don't care about the people of Israel. I don't care about the soldiers. I don't care about them. I do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us such a sensitive neshama and such a caring heart that it really only wants to care about others and take care of others and see what we can do for others. When Eliezer was looking for a wife, there's only one midah that he cares. Amuna, bitachen, yira shemayim, tznius. He doesn't even look for one thing. Are you a noisein or a noitel? Are you a giver or are you a taker? Are you tselem elukim or not tselem elukim? What exactly are you? If you're a person who thinks more about other people instead of yourself, you're the mother of Klal Yisrael. You're the mother who's going to build the house. You'll take care of the kids. You'll take care of your husband. You'll support him. You'll encourage him. You'll tell him all the accolades that he needs to hear. But if you're a noitel, if you're a taker, you're thinking about yourself. You know, it's like Amazon.com does a great job making us think about ourselves. You know, people like you, they bought this. You also need that. Taka, you're right. I didn't think about that. Oh, that's what I need. You know, well, and while you're busy putting it in the cart, people who bought that, they also bought this and this. Maybe you could buy that also. We live in a very superficial world where the world's trying to convince us that we're the most important person in the world. But really, other people are the most important people. Rav Aryeh Levine, when he became a chassan, he sat down with his wife, his kala, and he said to her, he says, you know, I know that the minhag is that the chassan gives his kala nice jewelry, gets her a bracelet, what do you call it now, a tennis bracelet, the paperclip bracelet. I know I'm supposed to get you earrings and a necklace, I know all of that, a ring, the whole thing. He said, my dear Kala, we are so poor in our family, we cannot afford any of that. But I want to give you something, and it's my promise. I promise you that for all of our life together, that whenever you and I have a disagreement about something, I would like to go to Shiloh's and you want to go to Pat's before they close down. You want to go to Cancun for Pesach, and I'd rather stay home. I think it's a more kosher place to be. You want to get the Hummer, and I'd like to just drive a simple Hyundai or a Honda. Please, that will be better for me. I promise you, my dear wife, whatever it is that you want, I will be mavater. I will give in, so that you will always get what you want. So you can imagine the Kala, she's smiling. Wow, what a chassan. It's all about me, it's not about him. And she says, my dear chassan, I know you're probably expecting a big chasana. Maybe Beverly Hills Hotel, I don't know. Maybe Century Plaza Hotel. Maybe Universal Hilton, take out the extra room over there, take out the wall that moves. I know you want the shmorg, and you want the sushi bar, and you want the carving station, you want a full bar. I know you want the 20-piece band, we should bring in Shweki and Benny Friedman. I know that's what you want. She says, my family, we're a very poor family. We can't afford any of that. We don't even know if we can afford the basic bare minimum hall. Musicians, for sure not. Maybe some guy that plays on the tabletop, some drums, and knows how to sing also. Food, my mother's planning on cooking a little bit of food for the chasana. So I can't give you a beautiful wedding where you can invite all your friends and all the family, and it's going to be amazing. I can't. But I do want to give you something. I want to give you my promise. And that is that in our marriage, whenever you and I have a disagreement about anything, I want pizza, you want sushi. I want to go on winter break to Eretz Yisrael for 2.5 days. You'd rather go to San Diego. I promise you, I will always be mevateres. I will always give in to whatever you want. Can you imagine such a marriage? Two tzaddikim, Rabbi Dovid and his wife. And each one only thinks, what could I do for the other person? Because when you have the midah, when you have the attribute of chesed, of kindness, chesed is, it flows, it just goes and goes and goes. You cannot stop giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. When a person lives their life like that, then they're guaranteed, as Rav Dessler used to say to chassan and kalas under the chuppah, as long as your focus is on the other person, then you're always going to have a happy marriage. And you and your spouse are always going to get along, and there will be simcha, there will be menuchas hanefesh, there will be shechina in that house. But he said the moment that you start thinking about yourself and what am I going to get, you can open the window or the door because the shechina is going right out. Chas v'chalila. Our life is a life of chesed. It's a life of giving. And the more that you are pressed to give when it's hard, that shows that you're avas chesed. You love chesed. Now, according to the flyer, this was not exactly the topic. I think it's something about growing through helping other people, or going through other people. So I wanted just to give you one last idea about this. The Ramban writes in his famous letter to his son, in the Igeres HaRamban, he says in the very beginning, the opening words that the Ramban says is, Tis noheg tamid, l'daber l'chol adam, u'l'chol shal l'chol eis, benachas ruach. And he says that a person should learn how to talk to every person all of the time, constantly, nachas, quietly, peacefully, and calmly. Why, says the Ramban? Because if you do that, nitzel min akas, you will be saved from ever getting angry. When I give shiurim to men who are in the world, who are married already in the world of shalom bayis, I always remind them that when he says l'chol adam, you have to speak to every person gently and peacefully, that also means your wife. When you are training yourself for the world of marriage, and you are getting ready to welcome somebody else into your airspace, into your headspace, into your dalet amos, you have to know it always has to be done benachas, pleasant, pleasing, calm. You never want to be that wife who is known as the nag. I'm sure that none of you even knows what that word means. Because Baruch Hashem, in your beautiful bias nemans that you grew up in, you never saw a nagging wife. Your mother, I'm sure they're all tzidkaniyos. They all talk to your fathers perfectly. You never saw a nag. But I once spoke to a woman here in Los Angeles who is a very big marriage therapist. And I asked her once, with all of your experience dealing with couples, tell me, who's at fault? The man or the woman? Who's the biggest culprit in a marriage? Now this is a frum woman talking to me. She said, I'll tell you the truth. The biggest culprit in marriage problems of shalom bayis are the women, because they nag their husbands about everything and they drive them absolutely crazy, and they have expectations that are like up to here, and when they don't get what they want, they start getting upset, and they make their husbands know how upset they are. The biggest culprits, she said, are the women. By the way, when I say this over in a man's chair, it always makes the men feel so good, and they nod their heads, yes, I knew it. Do you hear what she's saying? She's saying that if a woman doesn't understand what Chesed is all about, what caring for another person is all about, remember, Ezer Kenegdos, you should see the person in front of you. It's not about you. It's about the other person. What do they need? Do you know how to read body language? Do you know how to read faces? Do you know how to hear the intonation in a person's voice? You know when you can tell your friend had a really bad day? How you doing? Good. Okay, yeah, it's great. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. No, come on, Spinze. You sure? You can tell me. I'm not going to tell anybody. And then, she starts crying. She had such a hard day. There was another girl in Beis Yaakov with bigger pom-poms on her shoes than her. Devastating. Baruch Hashem, you forgot those days, didn't you? You've moved beyond all of that. You want to be a good wife. You have to know what your husband needs. You have to see his face. You have to sense the body language. You have to hear how he talks, what he talks about. The encouragement, the giving, the caring, the viter. The chesed. Tremendous chesed that you are going to do. When you become someone that is excelling, and I'm sure that you all do, but excel even more, you're going to see out of nowhere, Hashem is going to send you a phone call, and that phone call is going to be the chassan, not the chassan, the family, the chassan calling to find out, Shadcha, and you're going to make a bias ne'eman b'Yisrael that you never ever dreamed of having before. Because when your life is for others, and the main others in your life are your husband and your children, Hashem says, that's the kind of young lady that I'm going to bring the birchas nisuin, the blessing of marriage to. I'll leave you off with one last story. See, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he was able to connect all the dots of 50 different places in Torah together to give over his shir. I'll just connect the stories together. That's where it ends up by me. It could be that I told this story before in one of the previous shir, but for me it's like the greatest Shalom Bayis story of all time. In the old city of Yerushalayim, going back into the 1900s, the early 1900s, the turn of the century, when they were living in the old city of Yerushalayim, and it was very abject poverty and conditions, you can't imagine what was going on over there. There were great tzaddikim that were known, and there were many hidden tzaddikim that lived in Yerushalayim. And these people, their stories, there's a whole set of books, I don't forget what it is, called the Jerusalem of yesterday, I forget what it's called. In that book, there's tons of stories of these hidden tzaddikim. They were like cobblers. They were what do you call it? They would build things, carpenters and the things, and that's what they did during the day. But at night, they would be like involved in the deepest levels of Kabbalah and learning the most Torah. You cannot imagine where they were holding. One of the hidden tzaddikim was a yid by the name of Rabbi Yaakov. And one day Rabbi Yaakov was not feeling so well. And they called the doctor in, and the doctor examines him. Whatever, maybe it's a cold. Another day, he's still not feeling well, getting weaker. The doctor comes back. And this is primitive days of medicine. There's not much you can do. And he says, Rabbi Yaakov, I'm sorry to tell you there is not much that I can do for you. You seem to have some kind of a disease that's going on. We don't have any medication. There's not so much time that you have left to live. So let's make you comfortable. We'll keep you in your house. We'll keep you in your bed. He calls the wife in. He says, do whatever you can to make your husband comfortable. We don't know how much longer he has to live. The doctor leaves and the wife goes to her husband. She says, Yaakov, all of my life I lived for you. I did whatever you need to make you happy. She said, please give me one last opportunity to make you happy. What can I do for you before you leave this world? And Yaakov thinks, he says, you know what? We're so poor. It's been quite some time since we had a hot bowl of oatmeal in this house. I would really like to have one last bowl of hot food before I leave this world. And she says, your wish is my command. She opens her cupboards, bare, there's nothing. She goes out of the house, she knocks on the neighbor's door. Do you happen to have any oats that you could spare? And the neighbor looks, yes, here you go. She goes to the next house. Do you happen to have any sugar that you could spare? She gets some sugar. She goes to the next house. Do you have any salt? Yes, some salt. Do you happen to have any milk that you could spare? Yes, here's some milk. And she comes back into the house like she's got the greatest treasure in the world. She stokes the fire. She gets the pot out. She puts everything in the pot and she's stirring and making the hot oatmeal that has not been in that house for months and months and months on end already. And when the oatmeal is ready, she pours it into a bowl and she comes to her husband Yaakov like she's holding on to the gift of Bikurim for the Kohen Gadol. She is so happy. And she walks over and she says, Rabbi Yaakov, this is the last thing you asked for. I went all around. Here it is, a bowl of hot oatmeal just for you. And he looks at his wife and he says, I don't really need oatmeal. In a few hours, my soul is going to leave this world and go back to its creator. But you, my dear wife, you're going to be left with the arrangements for the Levaya. You're going to be left taking care of the children. You're going to have to figure out how to be able to survive and live with no money in the poverty that we live in right now. You are the one who needs physical strength much more than me. And my last wish is that you eat a bowl of oatmeal. That's what's going to make me happy right now. And sure enough, his wife sat next to his bedside and she ate the bowl of oatmeal. And shortly after she finished, his neshama went back to Hashem. Because when your life is about other people, you could be in the situations that most people are thinking only about themselves. We just had in my house last week, we bought fish with bones. Don't ask me why we did this. So many bones. I couldn't let my kids eat it. It's like a danger. One got caught in my mouth. I got so scared. But it reminded me of the following story with the altar of Kelm. The altar of Kelm when he was dying. On his deathbed, it was Erev Shabbos Kodesh. And he turned to his children and his wife that was sitting by his bedside and he says, please be careful tonight. And they said, what? He said, please be careful tonight. It's Shabbos. So what do I have to be careful? He said, because tonight on Shabbos we eat fish. And we eat fish with bones. You're going to be so sad when I leave this world. Maybe you're going to start to cry. Please, he begged them, please be careful when you're eating the fish. If you're crying, stop eating. I don't want you to choke on the bones. The end of your life, you're leaving this world. What are you thinking about? What's going to be with my family after the fact? When a person lives a life of being a nice and of being a giver, when you live a life of chesed, when you live a life of caring about others, when you live a life of seeing the person who's standing there in front of you, and it's not about me, it's about them, then you're always coming up with new ideas and new plans and new ways that you could make the life of that person much better, much more enjoyable, much more meaningful. In Yetz Hashem, as you are going through the sugya and the process of finding your Ezer Kenegdai, your mate in life, show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you understand what marriage is all about. What's it all about? It's about thinking about another person. and understanding them so well that I'll always be able to fulfill their needs and bring them happiness, menuchas hanefesh, encouragement, accolades, self-confidence, a good dinner, whatever they need. I'll be the one, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll see. I'll do that for them. And that's why Eliezer looked only for Chesed, because that's the defining characteristic of a Bas Yisrael, of an Eishes Chayil. How much Chesed are you going to do? Olam Chesed Yibani, you'll build your world with Chesed. You build your husband's world with Chesed. You build your children's world with Chesed. And in Yetz Hashem, in the schus of all the Chesed that each and every one of you will do, you'll help to build the ultimate world of Chesed with the Bias Goyal Tzedek B'mheir Av Yameinu. Is there any questions? Yes.
Is it like a measuring stick to how much Chesed to do to make sure you're not going to be like a pushover?
Yeah, you don't have to become a shmata. You know what a shmata is? Yeah? You don't have to become a shmata, which means you don't have to be walked all over. And of course, I'm sure that your husband will have very good chassan classes. He'll know not to walk all over his wife. So you have to know yourself what you can handle. And I'm sure that you'll find a husband who understands his role in giving and taking care of you as well, so that it's a symbiotic relationship of chesed that is going on in the house. With kids, it's a much different story. Children is chesed shal emes. That's a chesed where I give and I give and I give, and I never actually expect to get anything back from them. I'm just giving them because Hashem entrusted me with their neshamas, with their bodies, with their health, with their ruchnis, with their emotional world. And I'm an adult and they are a child. They can't do anything on their own. So I'm just giving and giving and giving. I don't expect, especially when they're infantile stages, I expect to get nothing back except sleepless nights, dirty clothes, and a lot of headaches. That's what I expect to get back. And that's okay because I'm doing chesed. But in marriage, it's got to work where the husband and wife work together to be giving and giving to each other so that no one feels like a shmata, everybody feels like a giver, and everybody feels that they're also being well taken care of by the spouse. Anybody else? Okay. Please invite me to your chasanas.